was once a time where we thought Sonic would always be the coolest character around, but these games proved otherwise.
Nobody can catch us on this thing!
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 worst Sonic games. For this list, we're looking at the worst games to feature Sega's Speedy mascot, main games and spin-offs included.
Finish! Yeah!
Number 10, Sonic the Fighters. Ever wanted to punch Tails or Amy right in the face? Then this little played arcade fighter might provide you with a few minutes of enjoyment. Besides that, this Virtua Fighter clone, which coincidentally was also made by the same integral Sega studio, showcases incredibly detailed graphics and little depth aside from pressing the same 3 buttons to make your opponent bleed rings. If you really desire to test out this gem of lameness, you can find it on the Sonic Gems collection for the GameCube. And be sure to relish the appearances of characters like Bean the Dynamite and Bark the Polar Bear, because you won't be seeing them ever again. Number 9, Sonic Labyrinth. You'd be surprised how many Sonic games forget that his main character trait is that he's the fastest thing alive. Case in point, this Game Gear puzzle platformer that places the speedy blue hedgehog in a series of mazes. Yeah, we know, it's a setup where you have to take your time and not go fast. The gameplay is actually some of the most sluggish you'll ever see, due to Dr. Robotnik replacing Sonic's shoes with an invention called slowdown boots. If any of your pitch meetings begin with, "Hey man, what if we slowed Sonic down?" just scrap it and fire that person. Number 8, Sonic 3D Blast. Sonic has many darker projects, but his first took place in the later half of the 90s when he was struggling to make a transition to the third dimension. So, instead of a proper 3D Sonic game, we got this frustrating platformer for the Genesis and Saturn with an isometric view. Much like the Labyrinth above, the perspective seriously muddles what's going on, and having almost every level be a fetch quest to save creatures called Flickies didn't make things any better. The worst part is that this poor stopgap installment was the closest thing we got to an official Sonic release during the Saturn era. Number 7, Sonic Shuffle. Unlike his one-time corporate nemesis Mario, Sonic hasn't proven himself as successful at jumping from genre to genre. One of the prime examples of this is in this Dreamcast party game that tried unsuccessfully to ape the Mario Party formula. Only positive thing worth noting is about its early use of cel-shaded graphics. Besides that, the core game is boring, the minigames are lacking, and the less we say about the ludicrous in-depth storyline which features Sonic and his friends venturing into a dream world to gather the pieces of a jewel called the Precious Stone, the better.
This is where the Precious Stone was. It's the crystal that created this world.
Precious Stone?
Number 6, Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis, GBA version. How do you manage to screw up directly porting a decade-and-a-half old Genesis game to an advanced handheld system? One of the many disappointments of Sonic's 15th anniversary celebration, Genesis for the Game Boy Advance actually sounded great on paper, and even included features like the ability to save anywhere and the spin dash, which wasn't actually introduced until Sonic 2. But unfortunately, Sonic Team merely included these to distract players from the constant slowdown issues, clunky controls, loads of bugs and glitches, and a completely unacceptable version of the once iconic 16-bit soundtrack. Number 5, Shadow the Hedgehog. If you look up Forced Darkness in the dictionary, and I don't know why you would, but anyway, chances are you'll see this game's box art in place of an actual definition. We're not against darker Sonic games, but this installment starring Sonic's morally ambiguous counterpart Shadow is a lazy and wrong way to do it, substituting legitimate darkness for guns and swearing.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
And it'd be one thing if tone was the game's only problem, but players were also forced to deal with awful controls and camera, and a long, convoluted story with 10 possible endings.
This is who I am.
The even bigger kicker, the game has a last chapter once you get all those endings, making them all entirely pointless. Number 4, Sonic Free Riders. In 2006, Sonic released Sonic Riders, a hoverboard-based racing game. It was okay. 2 years later, they released Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. It was also okay. 2 years after that, they released Sonic Free Riders. It was unplayable.
Okay, balance on it. Okay, get ready to jump. What the heck?
Releasing as a launch title for the Xbox 360's Kinect peripheral, being able to control your racer with your body sounds kinda cool in concept, but works horribly in execution.
Okay, God, look at this crap! Man, I hate this game so much.
Seeing as a racing game depends entirely on being able to move, this is a pretty big hindrance, and a good reason of why this game was forgotten shortly after its release. Number 3, Sonic R. Speaking of Sonic's racing games, here's one of the worst. At its core, this one should have worked better than any other. Put Gamer's fastest character and his friends in foot racing competitions. It's just too bad that Sega also decided to take away the character's ability to move more than an inch to the left or the right, lacking completed textures or detail on its paltry selection of only 5 stages. Worst of all, you can complete this game 100% in less than an hour. Number 2, Sonic the Hedgehog, 2006.
Wow, that's a pretty snazzy performance there.
For Sonic's 15th anniversary and for his first outing on the 360 and PS3, Sega decided to go big. And by big, we mean transfer half of their development team to Sonic and the Secret Rings for the Wii and rush the game for a holiday 2006 release. Because of this, Sega put out one of the most legendarily despised games ever created.
And don't worry, I'll rescue you.
I know.
Sonic 2006 introduced reviled new characters like Silver and Princess Elise, it controlled abysmally, had intolerably long load times, and was backed by a wretched plot that ended with Sonic sharing a kiss with the aforementioned princess. And yet, this actually wasn't Sonic's biggest fail.
I always keep my word.
Sonic!
Before we reveal our top pick, here are a couple of dishonorable mentions.
You've really gone and done it this time, Eggman.
Ah, Sonic, that's a good look for you. Nasty. Knuckle slam.
Number 1, Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric.
Let's just say he won't be bothering us again. Unless he comes back.
As terrible as Sonic 2006 is, it still has a minority of defenders. But Rise of Lyric, alongside the abysmal 3DS counterpart Shattered Crystal, is so awful that not even the most dedicated fans of the once proud Hedgehog can bear to defend it.
Oh, you know how much I like punching things.
Be my guest.
Set in a new continuity connected to the cartoon of the same name and featuring laughable redesigns of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, the game combines every problem that Sonic has had since he jumped to 3D and multiplies it exponentially. Frame rate issues, loads of bugs and glitches, and unbearably bad dialogue are all present here, adding up to the worst-selling Sonic game ever released.
Look, ramps.
We can use these as ramps.
Sonic Boom, more like Sonic Bust.
I didn't mean that literally. It was a taunt. It's villainy 101.
Do you agree with our list?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm pretty sure it's a bad thing.
Which Sonic game do you think is the very worst?
Okay, with your help, this should be a piece of cake.
For more way past cool top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
If you have time to worry, then run!